every week. It's up to you. Anyone can offer something to the group, and the more we get involved, the better the group will be. One of the things we'll be doing tonight is, thanks to our philanthropy committee, and getting a list of rootstocks to sell. So we'll be putting that out there for sign-up sheets tonight. So if some of you have come tonight with the intent of maybe signing up on a committee, I will send around a sheet or have a sheet up at the table, and please, put your name and phone number, contact. Beginning of next month, we'll have a committee kickoff, and we're going to have a potluck, and everybody will get together and we'll give direction and kind of start our committees. We have the Botanical Garden at Southwestern College, who is chomping at the bit, wanting to plant trees, wanting to get the rare fruit growers involved in putting in a rare fruit collection. Our San Diego Botanic Garden up at Quail is wanting to add more things. Our membership committee has some fun events planned, so please get involved. Along with sign-ups tonight, we also have sign-up sheets for anyone interested in purchasing rootstocks. One of the things we want to plan this year is a plant sale for the San Diego chapter, and we are proposing that will be at the Green Scene at Southwestern College in September. Every Labor Day is Green Scene, and with that in mind, we will be propagating material for the plant sale or for your own use. If you are interested in getting any rootstocks, they'll run about $1.50 each for various rootstocks. Kevin has looked up a bunch of information on rootstocks for us. Kevin, wave. Where are you? Wave. We have a sign-up list if anyone would like apple rootstocks, pear rootstocks, rootstocks for peaches, plums, apricots, etc. We have both standard and semi-dwarf available, and we'll be making a group purchase. So if you'd like to get some for yourself to grow at home and graft your own trees onto, please put down your name and how many of what you would like, and we'll add you to the list and let you know when they come in. So it'll be a great opportunity. We will be having a grafting workshop as well. Next month will be our grafting topic, and Jim is also planning a grafting day, a workshop, if you will, at a location that everybody can come and try their hand at grafting. We'll have plenty of bandages on hand. So if you'd like to try some grafting, this is a great opportunity to get some trees started. Multi-grafts are fun, and lots of things that you can graft on at home, and very rewarding to try your hand at grafting. Maybe you'd like to graft and just offer the trees for sale to the general public at the Green Scene. Have some new things that we are initiating. A couple of them I'd like you to take notice of. For the opportunity table, we have a thank you list on the wall of the people who brought prizes for the opportunity table. If you have questions about the items they brought, we're putting their names up there as well. So thank you everyone for participating in the opportunity table. This is a great way the club makes a little bit of money to help pay for our refreshments and newsletters and things going on. So thank you for bringing those. Some of the plants that we'll be propagating as a group will also be at the opportunity table. So some of the grafted trees will be grafting, cuttings that we'll be starting will be at the opportunity table, and things like that. Another thank you list is for the refreshments that have been brought tonight. Thank you to everybody who brought refreshments for the goodie table for us all to enjoy. Again, we're posting their name up on the wall for everybody to see, and really appreciate you bringing things in. We all enjoy the goodies, and wanted to make a special thank you for those people who bring things for the group to enjoy. One last thing that is new for us all, and you may have noticed it as you walked in, is our suggestion tree. Other people have suggestion boxes. We have a suggestion tree. Of course, it has fruit on it. And it's right up here on the side of the pillar that I would like input from anybody who would like any suggestions made at all. Please drop a note in the box, and we'll get those to the appropriate committee or people, or look into some of the questions you might have. But this is a great way for us to get feedback from you. You're here at the meeting for us. Leave us notes. Leave us things that you want to know, or things you want to see, or things you want done differently. It's through your efforts and your participation that the club will grow, and hence our suggestion tree, and be fruitful. And so we have our little tree over there for you to drop notes in and feed our tree so we can grow. All right. Before we get started tonight, I'd like to take a moment and ask if we have any visitors to the club. If you'd like to just stand up and introduce yourself. Name's fine, and what area of town. Any newcomers, first time? Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you all for coming. If you want to just stand up and introduce yourself quickly for us.
Dennis Eggplant and Roxanne Kelly. We have Rose Cottage Fruits. We're in National City, 16th and C Street. And we sell some of our stuff at the Mission Valley Farmers Market and the Liberty Station Farmers Market.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
I'm Ari Tenenbaum from Claremont, and I do landscaping, so grow a lot of fruit trees.
Good. Good. We're all learning, so thank you. Welcome.
My name's Dylan. I also work with Ari. We run our own company. We live in Claremont, and just really excited to learn some new stuff and learn about new fruits and do some grafting, hopefully.
Good.
I'm John Brooks. This is my wife Elizabeth. We live in the Bayho area of Claremont, and we grow 4 fruit trees on the roof of our house.
Excellent. Excellent. Anyone else?
My name is Steve. I'm here with Kimberly, new homeowner in Campville. I don't have any fruit trees on my property, so.
We can fix that. You'll get addicted.
I'm Dan Beal. I live in Pennsylvania, Los Pennsylvania. Got about 50 fruit trees, most of which I got from Tom.
Any other non-student visitors?
I'm Bruce Richings. I'm from Encinitas, and I work at the Self-Realization Fellowship Farm up there, Swami Acres. We've got a 14-acre farm, and I'm the fruit tree guy.
In Encinitas?
Encinitas, yeah. So I'm interested in rare and exotic fruits, and we do mostly vegetables, but a small part of the farm is now being devoted to fruit trees. And I'm also interested in small fruits. So.
I'm Ted Ludwig of the White District. We're from alcohol, just home gardeners.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Robin Rivet. I'm probably a soon-to-be member. Have about 70 fruit trees, and I just returned today from the research station at the Citrus in Riverside. So I'm OTing on fruit today.
Any other new visitors? Well, welcome. And thank you very much for coming. We really enjoy you coming and taking part in our meeting. Hopefully you'll get inspired and motivated and come every month or some months. Because you don't have to be here every month. We all have busy lives. We all have things to do. So come when you can. We're always here. And we have wonderful people in our membership that can help with any questions you might have. Thank you for all for coming. I hope you take the time to get to know some of our members. And one of the things our hospitality committee is hoping to do is to pair you up with people who have similar likes and interests so you can feel more comfortable and you can get to know people with like minds. Growing fruit is something you will become addicted to. I'm sure many of our members here will tell you once you grow your own fruit trees, your own fruit, you can't go back to buying them in the store. Luckily, there's folks like you who offer tree-ripened fruit. And one of the things that a member is proposing that we put together, you'll see it coming up in the next month or two, is the fruit connection. Many of us have a surplus of fruit that goes to waste, myself included. I can't eat all that I have. I don't have time to pick it all and do anything with it. And it's a shame. And the Fruit Connection is a resource for our membership where people who have excess fruit will be able to list what they have and be put in contact with people who are maybe interested in coming and trading for other types of fruit, maybe coming and picking the fruit, maybe are interested in purchasing some of the fruit. We'll let the members work it out. But if you would like to have carambolas, and I'd like you to find a good place that have star fruit or carambola tree ripened. They're not. They don't exist. But I have carambola all over the ground. Okay? So that makes me sad, and this will be an opportunity for people to come and take advantage of that and get some fruit that maybe they haven't had the opportunity to try before. No, but I might not be there yet. I might be out at 5:30. So look for the Fruit Connection, guavas or whatever you have, apples, there's always something to share. And those of you who would like to participate, it'll be very discreet. We're not posting your name and phone number on the big web page. We'll put you in touch so that it'll be a one-on-one and people can utilize that any way they like. Yeah. I'm sorry? The field trip has not been announced.
We have a celebrity here, today's paper, Yellow and Kevin's rain gathering system.
Come on, guys, don't stand back there. Come on up. Come on up. I'm not up here to flap my lips the whole time. Come on. Those of you probably all know Cielo. She is our new secretary, and she has a field trip she wants to announce for us. So,
Super Bowl Sunday, from 10 to 12, we have a rain harvesting and gray water talk and garden tour. The garden is in, I think it's like North Park area. So it's for members only, and the sign up is over there as you walk in the first table. So if you guys would sign up, and those who have signed up, I will send you the address of the garden 5 days before the garden tour. And there's also a new garden or field trip to UC Riverside Citrus Collection, and that will be on March 19th, Friday. It's an all-day event. And because of the budget cuts, we were told that they don't have a whole lot of people to help with a field trip like we did 2 years ago. So they're limiting it to the first 20 members. So if you're a member and if you're not sure if you can make the field trip, the all-day trip, wait until you absolutely are sure. If you are sure, please sign up. Only the first 20 can, when we fill it. If we do fill it, then we'll look at, possibilities for a van pool. We'll rent a bus or a van, depending, it'll probably be like $10 to $15 per person. If we don't fill the 20 people, we'll open it up to the North County and all the North County chapter members. So hopefully there's enough interest in here. 2 years ago we went and it was really a fun trip, and it was organized by Jose. Right, Jose? Yeah. So we may have Jose check in the van pooling also.
I highly recommend it. I was there today.
All right. So she was there on behalf of Master Gardeners. So it's really great. You get to taste new citrus varieties, and based on that, then you can decide what kind of new citrus you want in your garden. And also, you get an update as to the citrus pest that's troubling the industry.
And if you want to order budwood next year.
Yeah, that's another story.
Is there a fee for either event?
There's no fee for either event, but the UC Riverside, the fee will only be for your bus fare. But if you want to drive there, we'll provide you direction. If you guys want to coordinate your own van pool, that's great too. I can even help set it up, and then we can try to let how many members can take passengers, or if you want to be a passenger yourself. And anyway, we have a sign up in the back.
Yeah. Well, our new board had their first board meeting earlier this month, and I want to thank all the members who came and participated in the board meeting. The board meeting is open to everybody. We have our board meeting the first Wednesday of the month. You're always welcome to come and join us. It's not all that interesting at times, but definitely your input is welcome. Are there any other announcements before we start the meeting?
I have just one start.
Come on up, Jim.
Emma Crones and I gathered up what we helped prune for some friends that they had met at the Festival of Fruit up north. These friends have all kinds of different fruit trees and weren't too sure how to prune them and so forth. So we went up there and pruned and harvested all kinds of scion with it. One problem is that the bundle has a tag only on one of the scion pieces, and for the most part. I tried to put extra indications on them. So when you pick out your scion piece, don't pick out the one that has the nice label.
We will be having John Verdick up here, and we will, before we adjourn for our refreshments and the sign exchange, please remain seated. We'll go over some of the criteria. We do have some extra bags and marking pens and things like that. Any other announcements?
Yes, I just want to remind you that we have a work party the second Saturday at Quail Botanical Garden, now known as San Diego Botanic Garden in Encinitas, from 8:30 until 1. I just wanted to clarify that the name has changed, so if you see San Diego Botanic Garden in the newsletter, you know it's also Quail.
And they should, do they have to pay for parking?
No, you don't have to pay for parking. Just come in at the kiosk, announce that you're going to be working with the rare fruit growers, and come back to the fruit garden. And if you have some favorite tools, I suggest you bring them, hand clippers, something like that. But we do have some in the garage, and we always go down and get some of those for everybody to use. So, and if you can't stay the whole time, that's okay too. Come and have fun with us. Thanks.
Great. They're doing more all the time up there, and I know they're planning some fun new things too. So with the Botanic Garden now in South Bay, as well as the one up in North County, hopefully we'll get the word out and get more people interested. Anything else somebody wants to bring up before we get started? All right, then I think I'll turn the meeting over to John. John is going to talk to you about big propagation, and this type of propagation can be used on other hardwood cuttings as well. So I'm going to get it set up here.
told this is going to be short and sweet, so how many of you came to pick up scion tonight? That's good. How many of you came to hear me? We got to get a transplant for you guys later on. You guys need to get a life. Can you kill some of the lights up here?
What is your name, John?
It's John, Jon, V-E-R-D-I-C-K.
I'm sorry?
V-E-R-D-I-C-K. I'm going to show this to you real quick and we can pass it around. This has got nothing to do with figs, but it's got to do with most everything else that's out there tonight. Apples, peaches, pears, plum cods, pluots, yada, yada, yada. Grafting. I know Jim's going to talk about this next month, but some of you may want to get started. This is just a twig I cut in half today, and I put it back together again. I'm going to pass it around. You can see the green tie tape I have on it. That's holding it all together. I'm going to take the tape off. Cut it off and make it faster. The green tape holds it all together. I take it apart. I got two pieces, my rootstock and my scion. This I've already wrapped with parafilm to keep it from drying out while it's getting connected to the rootstock, while it's growing together. But what you want to see is this is called a, if you just have two pieces like this, I'll show pictures at the end of this so you can see this a little better. Just two pieces that are equally the same, cut off at an angle. That's called a splice graft. Very, very simple. You just get the two pieces the same size and shape and so on so that they butt together, wrap them up, and you're done. The problem is that they kind of want to wiggle. There's nothing to lock them together. So if you cut another little notch in, I mean, you probably can't see this right now, but I'll pass it around so you can see it. In each piece, then you can lock them together. Now when you're trying to tape it up to tighten it up and seal it, it stays put. So we'll pass this around. You guys can see it. You can take it apart. It's just trash. So that's called the whip and tongue wrap. If you do it Jim's way, it's the whip and tongue, lick and stick. Because Jim licks both pieces before he puts them together. If it works for Jim, I don't argue with him. Let's go to our next picture. This is part of the presentation I did for the Festival of Fruit about 3 years ago about figs. I cut about 80% of it out because we don't have that much time tonight. This is a black Madeira fig, probably the best fig there is to eat. Unfortunately, it needs a lot of heat. So if you're anywhere west of Lemon Grove, not much chance. Next. This is, I guess I should explain a little bit. I grow about 500 kinds of figs. This was one day about 3 years ago. You can see all the different textures, colors, shapes, sizes. They all have different flavors. There's a whole world of these things out here. Go ahead. This is my website, Figs for Fun. Now, the reason I'm showing this to you is for two things. One, I sell plants and I sell cuttings. If you're interested in fig cuttings, they will be available in a couple of weeks, which is here at Candle Farms Nursery. What's more important for tonight is this one right here. It says growing tips. Everything you're going to hear tonight is right there, and a whole lot more. So if you missed something tonight, and you want to get in contact with me or whatever, you can email me from the bottom of the page. This will give you all the information you want. This here, varieties, will give you information on 1,000 and some odd varieties from all over the world. So if you need more information, it's there. Thanks for number 4. Fun. Go ahead. This is what we want to have happen. We want to have a plant that grows. But we're going to start out with something that has neither leaves nor roots. And we need to get to this point. Go ahead. Cuttings. There's a whole pile of them back there. Some of them have pointy ends on them because they're the end of the branch. Some of them don't. Some of them are going to be really thick, like that one. Some of them are going to be pretty skinny, like this one. one here, I take it, and I cut up pieces about, you got a pair of Coronas, they're just a perfect length. Your cutting's the same length as the Corona, 8 inches, it's really good. You can just take this thing and keep cutting it. Pretty soon you got a whole stack of stuff to make the trees out. Now what happens when we get down to this end? Well, probably need bigger clippers. I can do the same thing with that I can do with this. Same thing. Now, the important thing is these little things on the side with buds. That's where your growth is going to come from. The roots will come from anywhere, but the growth, the new leaves and new shoots are going to come from the buds. So you got to have some of those. How many buds on there? 1, 2, 3? 1. Okay. So all you need is 1. That will grow. Now, practically speaking, you want to take something that's about 6 or 8 inches long, that's got 3 or 4 buds, and you have a much better success that way. But that 1 bud will work. So if you have a piece that's too long, cut it down to a piece that you can use, and you got a little piece left over, play with that too. It will work. Okay, next. Greenhouse. How many people have a greenhouse? Okay, 90% of you are liars.
We make our own greenhouse.
Every one of you has a greenhouse. This is my upstairs in my house. That's a greenhouse. 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 All it means is that we're going to control humidity or temperature or both. If I put it in my house, it's warm. I've got the temperature. If I close it up and put something wet inside, I have humidity. That's my humidity control. That's a greenhouse. Trash bag is a greenhouse. You can have a big fancy one. They have some in some of the arboretums and stuff that cost millions of dollars. This one here was probably 25 cents. Does the same thing. Go ahead. Anybody know what this is?
The 3 bears.
The 3 bears. Now, how were the porridges? One was
Too hot.
too hot
Too cold.
and just right. Okay. You can be too wet, too dry, or just right. You can be too hot, too cold, or just right. So just like that, you've got to get everything in a zone, and then you're flying. Go ahead. That's too wet. Back. You guys get those wet for me. Sink. Figs, when they're rooting, have to be very, very careful about moisture. If you get too much moisture, you get rot. If you have too little moisture, the thing dies. So when you have something like this, with no roots, it doesn't take up moisture very well. So we want to get this part wet, damp, not soaking wet, just damp, to initiate roots. But we want to keep this part humidified so that it doesn't dry out and go to waste. Go ahead. More greenhouses. These are on the yard. Didn't put them all in the house. These are 5-gallon buckets with a plastic bag over them. I don't care about temperature here because the outside temperature was fine, but I need to control the humidity again. Okay, go ahead. Another greenhouse. Some pipe and a piece of painter's drop cloth, a piece of cardboard to keep it shady out of the heat and the sun, and a 2x4 to keep it from blowing away. So maybe $5, $4, $3, something like that. Go ahead. Temperature. Most of these are going to root somewhere in your indoor temperature. If you got your house at 80, that's more than enough. If you got your house at 60, crank it up a little. Somewhere around 70 seems to be a pretty good number. If you don't want to make the whole house 70, buy a box, plastic box, put a light bulb in there, maybe 25 watts or so, turn it on, close the lid, it'll warm up in there. You don't have to heat the whole house, just the space that you're rooting in. Go ahead. Okay, this is what we're going to do tonight.
What about the mats for rooting? Are those worthwhile?
Bottom heat is good. If you use a heat mat, the only problem you have to watch out for is cooking.
For what?
Cooking it. Probably better off just to keep it warm rather than,
A lot of heat.
if you're not real good with it, you haven't really practiced with it, and you're not in control of it, you're good chance you're gonna cook it. In fact, I think there's somebody here today that cooked some recently that was telling me about it. Okay, this is my greenhouse. These are my cuttings. This is my humidity. Okay, go ahead. I'm gonna take one of these. Now, you don't want this to be too wet. If it's dripping, it's way too wet. Now we're getting pretty good. If I can squeeze some more out of it, now I'm too dry. So I don't like that one. So it doesn't have to be very wet, just enough to keep the humidity up in there. We're going to take one of these. You want to leave about a ½ inch at the bottom. Because you want this part to stay dry. You don't want this to get too wet, because then it's going to rot on you. Go ahead. Roll it up. Keep going. Going to add another twig. I didn't cut these all the same size, but that's okay. One. We're going to add another twig. Okay. Keep going. Okay, I'm all done. Now, label. Piece of tie wire, tie string, grafting tape, bread tie, Scotch tape, whatever. There it is. I got my humidity, I got my cuttings. It's now in my greenhouse. Throw it on the top of the fridge. I did this it's been 3 years now, a friend of mine. She didn't know a fig tree from whatever, but she liked to eat figs. Her neighbor had a nice tree, I said, fine, let's make some. Did just that, threw them on her fridge. About 4 weeks later, we had roots, we potted them up. Now she's making Christmas presents out. Do they all work that easy? No. Some are harder, some are easier. If I give you 10 cuttings and you treat them all exactly identical, they will not all perform the same, even if they came off the same tree. So just be patient, be a little flexible. Now I'm going to show you one other trick. This will come up later, but you take this thing, you open it up, keep just a little bit on the end here. Fresh air. Now you think that's maybe not fresh, but it's fresh enough. If you get this thing packed down real tight, you have no air. It's going to spoil. It's going to rot. If you don't see roots after a week or two, you might want to take it out and just air it out, blow it in again. Make sure the towel is just barely damp. If it's not damp enough, take a spray bottle, spray it just a little bit, not a lot, and then pack it up again. But you need to keep fresh air in there, though. If you don't change the air, don't keep fresh air in there, then you'll get rot and mold and all sorts of bad things. By blowing it up like this, you start off with a bigger supply of air, so it's not as touchy. You can go, a week or so without worrying about it. Go ahead, Tom. This is what you're looking for. Roots on the bottom, just like that. Go ahead. It's the same bundle of twigs. Go ahead. Taking them out of the greenhouse.
Oh, look at the top.
Yeah, Tom's doing his thing. Now this here, we'll get to that in a minute. There's no relationship there, just in case you didn't know it. Go ahead. This is what you're looking for. These could be a 1/4 inch long, a 1/2 inch long. Some of them get to be a couple inches if you don't pay attention, let them go too long. Some won't want to get that long to start with. So.
Will it hurt if they get longer?
No. It makes it a little harder to pot them up later if you have lots on there. But you can do this on top of your fridge. You got nice heat coming off the back of your fridge. And you can get them rooted. Now you know which ones to worry about. The ones that didn't root, you don't have to worry about potting them up, using the potting soil, and spending all the time. And you can do this inside. You don't have to go outside in the rain to deal with it or anything like that. Go ahead. These twigs are about that size. This is about 1 inch. same thing, they're getting roots on them. These were in a bigger bag. These were in one of those bags that was upstairs in my house that you saw at the beginning, in their little plastic greenhouse. Go ahead. These are big twigs again. These are an inch or more in diameter, so this is probably 2 or 2.5 inches of root on here. No soil, no watering, no anything, just a damp cloth. In this case, we used newspaper because it was big twigs and the towels weren't that big. You don't have to use paper towel, you can use newspaper, you can use other things, just, there's some flexibility, there's nothing magic about it. This is the way to get the moisture in.
You're not adding any moisture down the road, just let it create its own humidity.
Okay. More roots. Go ahead. Greenhouse. These are $5.99 at Smart and Final. I think they're 6 or 7 at Home Depot, maybe. Just about everybody in town somewhere has these things. You can put about 20 of these cups. These came from Smart and Final. These are 20 ounces, something like that. They're also available like Restaurant Depot, places like that. If you can kiss up to somebody at Starbucks, you can probably get them from there for a small fee. Some of them don't like to give them out, so. But they're out there somewhere. We're going to put them in here and get about 20 in there. Go ahead, Tom. Yes, everything that you garden in has got to have holes in it. When you're rooting cuttings, when you get your 1-gallon pots, your 5-gallon pots, your 10-gallon pots, it's got to have holes. This is a piece of hardware cloth or screen, or what do you call it? These are about 1/2-inch squares. This is 1 by 2 from Home Depot. They're like $1 for an 8-foot piece. Just cut them up, turn them on the edge, get some roofing nails, nail them on, or a staple gun, or whatever. It doesn't make that much difference. This is about 1.5 inches across here. We're going to put that in the bottom of our greenhouse, our packing crate. So when we water these things, we're going to want the water to go through the bottom. We don't want these sitting in the water. If they sit in the water, you're toast. Go ahead. Now we got this thing. Take our twigs out of our greenhouse. We unwrap them. If we know what we're doing. Okay, it's got roots on it, so we're going to be a little careful about peeling the paper off of it. It's kind of dark, so. We're going to take that root cutting. I'm going to put a little bit of perlite in the bottom. Cutting in, fill it up. Now, if you haven't seen perlite, this is perlite plus some other stuff. The white stuff is the perlite. That's what you want to take a look at. This is available not everywhere, but I know the Home Depot in Lemon Grove has it. The one in Kearney Mesa, Claremont, Genesee, whatever, usually has it also.
Armstrong's on Friars has it also. About $19.95 for the large bag.
Yeah, it's getting a little pricey. You want to use
small amounts you can buy at City Farmers
okay.
For like $3 or something.
The point of the perlite is to keep you from getting the thing too wet. It provides some stability for the roots to grow in. It holds a little bit of moisture. I sometimes add a little vermiculite to hold moisture. In this particular bag of stuff, I'm doing something different, so I've got some compost in there, which will also hold moisture, but it's maybe like 5 or 10% is all. You don't need to hold much moisture. If you get too much stuff in there, and it all packs down and gets solid, you get no air, and then you lose your roots again. So you want to keep it open and loose. It's going to look like this. You're going to get it full in there, get your label on it, and we'll move on. Put them in our tub. Just like I said, there's 20 of them in there. This has got a nice, probably 2 inches of growth on it already. This one hasn't done much of anything. This has got a little bit of start. That's got 3 or 4 big leaves on it. You take 20 cuttings off the same tree, it will look like that. They will all do something different. So that's why when you go down to your place to get something to put them in, you make it clear. this doesn't tell you anything. All it tells you is that you have leaves or no leaves. It doesn't tell you what's going on here. Go ahead. That's too wet. You've seen a lot of condensation on there, it's too wet. But what you want to look for is that this stuff is not all matted down together solid. You want to be able to see airspace in there. If you get perlite, sometimes it's got a lot of fines that you might have to sift those out so that you get some coarser pieces. Go ahead. In time, you're going to take it back out of here. That's what it's going to look like. Go ahead. That's the same cutting. Look at the top of that. Not a sign of life on the top yet. I got lots of nice roots down here. This is ready to go into a 1 gallon can with some potting soil with a lot of perlite in it so you still keep good drainage. Because the roots are not any different just because you took them out of this pot and put them in a bigger pot. Nice leaves. Not much root. So there wasn't much point in taking this one out of here yet because it wasn't ready. But if this is solid, you can't tell what's going on. That's why you want to have a clear container to do your rooting with. Go ahead. Next one. Same thing. Lots of leaves and growth, no roots. They're just all a little different. Look at the roots on this one. Just in a not even a 1 gallon pot, just a cup this size. Go ahead. See the roots in here? I know exactly how many roots I have there because I can see them. If I can't see them, they're either really, really short yet or they're not there at all. Go ahead. Take that out, it looks like that. That's ready to go in a 1 gallon can. It's ready to take off and be a nice tree. Go ahead. The roots in that one. Sometimes they'll grow up and out of the cup. You get that many roots.
Do you want to let it go that long?
It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay. It can sit like that probably for a couple more months. It's not critical. The only thing you get in trouble with is if you do it too soon and you don't have any roots. Then you've really kind of wasted all the time that you've gone through. This is a nice light mixture, mostly perlite or all perlite, or all vermiculite. I'm not saying you should do all vermiculite. You can if it's really coarse and you're very careful with the moisture. But the point is, when we see the next picture, it'll come right out of the cup. Real easy.
Question on when you first put the cutting in with the perlite, how much water or moisture did you add?
You can water it.
How much?
I can fill it up. It's got holes in the bottom. It's going to drain out.
Okay. Oh, you got holes in the bottom of the cup.
Yeah, you got to always have a hole in the bottom.
Okay.
You can't ever have it sitting in the water. That's why we put the screen in the bottom of the greenhouse, so that when the water drains through here, it's in the bottom, not touching the bottom of the cup.
John, is there a minimum root size when you take it out of the original bag and put paper around it? Do you think about starting it?
No. I mean, if they're a 1/4 inch long and there's a lot of them, that's fine. What you're looking for is that it's actively making roots. If they're longer than that, that's fine too. Sometimes it'll put out 3 or 4 long ones. Sometimes it'll put out 50 little short ones. But at least you're in control. You know what it's doing. You can see that you have root initiation started and you've got a sufficient amount of roots coming on. Then you can put it in here and keep track of it. If it doesn't want to root at that stage, then you may just end up not worry about the cutting later on. You save the time of the cup, save the time of repotting it, the potting soil, all that kind of stuff. But with this one was done with a mix of vermiculite and perlite. Again, the vermiculite holds a lot of water, so you got to be very, very careful if you go that route. But either one of those will come right out of the cup real easy. Just turn it over, hold on to the twig, and shake it, and it'll come out. Go ahead. Keep going. That's what you look. That's what you got. Nice roots on this end. This one happens to have leaves on the other end. This one happens to be one that rooted in about 2 weeks. This thing just wanted to grow. I had like 5 pieces of this from a guy back east, and they just all exploded.
Wait, once you put them up, do you try and get them into the light, or does it not really matter?
Doesn't matter. You do not want them in direct sunlight. If they don't have any leaves on, they can't really use the sunlight anyway, but you can burn them. If you don't want to put it in the sun, you can stick them in the oven and heat them up that way and burn them that way, but same thing. See all the roots on the bottom of that? Okay, go ahead. we end up with this. Now, I've been experimenting. I think we got a few more pictures here. It's our greenhouse. We got the door open. I want fresh air in. I also want the humidity to stay in. If I keep it propped open a little bit, you can interlace this. If you get the ones with the interlock tops on them, you can interlace them so that the thing can stay open like that. I close it for a day, open it for a day, close it for a day. Depends on how dry your environment is. You got moisture in the bottom. It's providing you humidity. You're getting fresh air in, but not a whole lot of fresh air and not a lot of air movement to dry it out too fast. Already went through this about blowing the bag up. And you can put probably 20 or 25 cuttings in a bag. It's not, you can put 2 or 3 in a bag, it doesn't matter. That's optional. Go ahead. Okay. Now, you can just forget everything I told you. That's a bag of about 300 Black Mission cuttings. That's sitting outside. They went from 38 to 80 and back and forth, winter and spring. It's in a plastic trash bag. It's got no moisture inside. It's sitting in a bucket, got full of rainwater, the holes in the bag let the water in with the cuttings. I drained them out, put it back, yada, yada, yada. Go ahead. Black trash bag, keep going. These are already starting to root.
How long were they in the bag?
3 months. Something like that. Maybe 4, I don't know. I don't know when I took the picture. But the point is, it's not, you've got to be careful, but it's not like it's a recipe. If you got a quarter cup of something too much, the whole thing is toast. These are just rooting in the bag by themselves. Go ahead. It's got probably close to 1 inch of roots on it, just sitting in a bag in my front yard. Not in the sun, but just hanging out there in the elements. The temperature wasn't a big issue. Controlling humidity wasn't all that big a function.
Any newspaper in there or anything?
No. No. Like I say, it got soaked, it got drowned once, it got dried out, back and forth. So, go ahead. Figs. Oh, those are all the same fig, by the way. Green one, red one, blue one, all off the same tree. And it's not grafted, one tree. Go ahead. Next one. Okay, we'll go back to our grafting. This was our piece of scion that we're going to graft on. This was, this happened to be a piece of mango wood, but it doesn't really matter. You're more likely to be working with apples or peaches or pears or something. Cut your wood off at a diagonal like this. Cut your your rootstock to match that. Go ahead. Then you're going to put another notch in it like that. It's going to give you that extra tongue. It's going to lock them together. One more. And you can see where how those are interlaced with each other. Wrap that up and it'll stay there for you. Get it cinched up nice and tight. You want to get your surfaces all very smooth and even so that you get as tight a seal on them as you can. And it's most important, not in the middle of the twig, not here, but the edge, where the bark is. Underneath the bark is the cambium layer. If you scratch the bark off, you'll see green stuff under there, a nice light green. That layer, that point is where you need to make your match. Doesn't matter if this one's got 1/2 inch thick bark and this one has 1/16 inch bark, as long as those 2 green layers match, that's the important part because that's where it's going to heal together. Just like if you put your skin together. Doesn't matter how thick the bark is, that's not what you're trying to match. You're trying to match that green inner layer just underneath the bark. Get that fork and lock it together, and it'll work really good for you. I think that's it. We can do questions, or we can go collect
Have you
twigs.
tried anything with rock wool as a medium?
No, I haven't. Doing this in a bag, I learned from a fellow he's in the Ventura chapter. He might be at somewhere, but his name is Richard Watts. He's been doing this for about 60, 70 years. So, if you're in the South, Louisiana, you just take the thing out and stick it in a bucket of dirt, set it under a tree, and it goes. Because it's hot and it's humid. You don't have to do anything more. We live in a different climate. We've had weather here where the humidity's been down to 10% or less in the last month or month and a half. That's why we have to have something, some kind of a greenhouse, however simple it is, to control the humidity. Yes, sir.
Would you increase your chances if you use in like a wooden pump?
Questions about hormone. If you're going to use a hormone, use a liquid.
Like dip and grow?
Something like that. If you use a powder, odds are it will increase rotting in your scion.
Okay.
That's been my experience. It's been the experience of guys back east that I correspond with, and it's information that I get from the University of California at Davis. You really don't need a hormone, but if you're going to use one, go with the liquid.
Bet more than the gel even.
Yeah.
John, you showed us those cuttings where the leaves had outrun the roots by a lot. Do you have to do anything special to those? Will they catch up eventually then? Is that how that works?
As long as you maintain the humidity, the top growth will not suffer, and you'll have time for the roots to develop. I haven't done it with this, but I did it with Batangas, Suriname cherries. You take cuttings, put them in sand, put them in a closed container, and they can sit there for 2 years, and the leaves are still green. They never root, but you can keep them alive and keep the leaves on them looking good for at least that long in a proper amount of humidity. So, same thing with this. You can keep this from shedding water, or you can keep it green by keeping the humidity up long enough for those roots to develop. Now, some twigs are just not going to do it. Just not going to happen. Just like some grafts are just not going to take. Maybe because you didn't know what you were doing, or because it was a bad piece of sign, or it just didn't feel like it.
You showed that both the small scion and the large with root. Is there any advantage to having a larger one?
No, but this is first-year wood. This wood is only 9 months old. It's the same as this piece and this piece. 9 months old or less. This is not old growth. This is not off a big old tree. This is what grew in since last spring. So, which is some of the better wood to use. Second-year wood, third-year wood works pretty well. But it doesn't really matter. Just if you happen to have a piece this size, don't be afraid to try it, because it's got the same properties. And there seems to be some indication a little bit thicker wood roots a little better. Seems to have a little more reserve in it or something.
You mentioned some of the other fruits that do well from cuttings, like mulberries and grapes and pomegranates.
I've done pomegranates. I have just a few to play with one time. I've tried mulberries. I've had no success. Supposedly you're supposed to be able to do it. I've not found the secret on mulberries.
How often do you change the air for that?
Maybe once a week. Something like that. Particularly if you got it all puffed up. If you got it all flattened out like it is now, it's got like 5 or 10% of the air in it, so you have to deal with it a lot faster, a lot more often.
If you use older wood, will it come to fruit faster, or will it still take approximately the same amount of time to fruit?
Each variety is going to be a little different. Some of them, maybe I should mention this. Some varieties get what they call a brave crop. It grows on the old wood. Most of them get it on the new wood that you haven't seen yet. It's going to grow this year. If you get figs forming on this when you're trying to root it, take them off. It's just energy going to the wrong thing. I've had twigs this big that are well rooted that fruited. I've had some that were bigger than that hadn't fruited yet. So they vary. Seedlings, I've done some seedlings. Some of them fruited in, well, this one. No, it's not one of these two. Some of them have fruited on the second year. Some of them haven't fruited after year 10. So don't bother with seedlings.
I had a new fig tree that the figs, before the bad weather set in, some they hadn't ripened. And I finally took them off the other day. I cut them off, but they bled. So I haven't pruned that tree yet, because does that mean that the tree isn't dormant yet?
You very unusual year this year. And trust me, I've been fighting this. We had, most of January has been 75 or 80 degrees. I have trees in my yard that are not yet dormant. They still have leaves. I have some that don't have leaves on them, but the wood is still green. I mean, it's green, not, I don't mean just fresh. I mean, it looks green. And it's not hardened up yet. You can root those, but humidity control is a lot touchier on those. When I'm cutting them now, when I go like this, that stuff sprays everywhere. Because they're close to breaking dormancy. I've got quite a few trees that are already breaking dormancy. They think it's spring because it's been warm for so long. So at this point, all you can do is prune them.
They're not going to bleed to death.
No, they won't bleed to death.
Okay, so
But if you need to prune for size control and whatever else, shape and all that, you need to do it because
Now's the time.
it could very well be another week or two to be too late. You'll have leaves all over the thing.
You might want to also talk to them about the brave upfront carryover from the current.
Okay, we'll do one quick. Pruning. A few figs have fruit on the old wood. They would get fruit on this wood. And this is 1 year's growth. This whole piece I brought in. 1 year's growth. Most figs come on the new growth. It's going to come from these buds that are on this branch. If your main crop, this tree is a main crop fig, you can prune this thing. You can take all of that off. I left a piece on there about this long with about 2 or 3 buds. 2 or 3 buds, that's all. Because the new growth that's going to come is going to provide my figs. But if you have a tree that has a brava crop, particularly if that's the only crop it gets, then if you prune it, we won't get any crop. So probably the most notorious of the bunch is Desert King. That's a brava only fig, so you have to be very careful about pruning them. Most of the rest of those back there will be main crop. They may have both, but pruning wise, the Desert King is the one you need to watch out for. Anybody else want sign on tonight? No? Okay, just keep talking.
All right, thank you, John.
If you're going to use a rooting medium, something other than the perlite, take your cups. If these get splits in the side, you can reuse them. It doesn't matter. Anybody here old enough to remember when plants came in metal cans? You stick a big pair of tin snips and cut them down the side? Okay. If you use a rooting medium that's got organic material like compost and things like that, it tends to stick to the side of the cup. When it's got little tender roots on it, you're trying to get it out of there, guess what?
Breaks the roots.
Breaks the roots off. So I was cutting them like this and I was taping them back together. And when it was time to take it out, I'd peel the tape off. So I was at Leo's the other day and I was telling him about these. He said, so why don't you just stick it inside another one? They're cheap enough, and make sure you got holes in all of them. First, inside,
Do you
outside.
do just a single hole or some multiple holes in the bottom?
About 4 holes, at least an 1/8 of an inch diameter. So when they get all broken up, you just cut them up. Thank you. Oh, you need parafilm for grafting. I brought that down. It's $2 a roll. There you go, Lee. Parafilm for grafting.
There's a lot more than that. I'm trying to get those.
Thank you very much. This method, good job. The method of propagation that John showed you can also be used on other things. Grapes, pomegranates, mulberries are very easy to root by cuttings, but you can also root apples, you can root plums. The disadvantage of rooting those is that you don't have any influence from a rootstock. So if you root a plum or an apple, it's going to be a full-size tree, 35 feet, and you won't have any of the advantages against nematodes as you will with nemogard and so on. So yes, you can root other things. We have scions to share and cuttings for those of you who don't have anything to graft or maybe don't want to graft but would like to try some cuttings. We do have a limited supply, so we have, what we are going to do is the people who donated scion will get to make selections first. And after they get a chance to pick, then the rest of the membership can join in and take cuttings or scions, whichever they like. Because there is a limited number, we are asking, please be considerate to everyone. Take no more than 2 cuttings of each variety. And start out with maybe taking 8 or so different varieties, maximum until everybody gets a chance to take what they want. Yes, Barry?
Yeah, I just want to repeat what Jim said. When you're taking the bundles apart, try and keep them together, because once they fall apart, it's just a pile of sticks. So you get yours, you label it, and there's a pile, and nobody knows what it is. They're going to take it. So just be really careful. Take one out, label it, leave the bundles together, especially the ones that are not independent places.
We do have tape and bags, tape and markers and bags for those of you who didn't bring any, so you can label your scions and or cuttings. Yes, Jim.
You're going to pick out the scion wood today and graft later on. Next month we'll have some demos and whatnot. And you want to store this in your crisper with a bit of moist paper toweling in your plastic bag. Just throw it in your crisper until you see your rootstock or what you're going to graft onto start to swell the buds, and you can graft. And if you parafilm it, you know, the exposed part of the scion, it really helps a lot to reduce the moisture loss. And your scion piece can sit there a month and have a chance to start growing before it dries out. So this is a great opportunity to take John up on parafilm if maybe you and a neighbor or something like that, if you're going to do this grafting. Anyhow, most of the things are going to not be grafted immediately.
And you'll be storing your sign much like John did his fig cuttings, except that you'll put it in the refrigerator. So with that, the members who brought sign wood to donate, if you want to go ahead and collect some signs, go right ahead and have a couple of minutes. Let's give them just a few minutes to get started, and then we'll let everybody go on up. If you would like to sign up for rootstock